Yes, I'm Ronald Stevens, or Ron to most of my friends, and I was employed at ALLDERS of CROYDON between about 1980 and 86 as a security officer, and also as a fire officer for the store. One of the most enjoyable times in my working career.
So how did you start there? Can you explain how this
Yeah,
worked?
I worked in another store as a contract security officer for another large store in the town, and got to know a lot of the guys that worked at ALLDERS, and some vacancies came up, and I applied. I always fancied joining them. They were a good team. I'd heard a lot of good things, so I thought, yes, that's where I'd like to be, part of a big team.
And how old were you when you joined there?
Oh, blimey, it was 1980, so that would have been 21.
So one of the first jobs, not the first, but
No, it wasn't my first one. It was my second security job. I started in security when I was 18, and so I'd had some experience in the retail side, and then joined their team from there.
okay, security in retail. What does it mean? What do you do?
It was basically protection of the stock in the stores, protection of the customers and staff, investigating theft, in arresting shoplifters, and protecting the store. And also on the fire side of it, was doing the training for the staff within ALLDERS. Every Monday you'd have an intake of new staff, and I was trained to train them in all aspects of fire safety and fire evacuation procedures, um, and that was basically my role within the team.
So you had a whole team?
Yeah, I was part of a team. We had three shifts within the store, so there was three teams. There was two day teams and a night team, and I worked on the day team. So we did 3 weeks of 7 till 3, and then we did 3 weeks of 3 in the afternoon till 11 o'clock at night, and that reverted on a rolling basis all through the year. And there were six of us on the team, so we were all very, very close. We all got to know each other's families, and we all socialised together, and it was a very, very enjoyable time.
And can you describe a typical day at that time?
Well, so if you were on an early turn, you would be preparing the store, opening up the various parts of the store ready for trading, checking the store, making sure everything was safe, turning off particular alarm systems, and checking the areas, giving keys out to staff, um, basically any sort of general stuff. And also we had a loading bay facility which had to be manned, so we would be booking in lorries in the loading bay, um, and checking things in and out, and we would then be patrolling the store for the majority of the time. We either on our own, or a couple of us together would go out together. We were in radio contact with our supervisor. There was a set of store detectives, the plainclothes side of the security team, and we would be waiting for them to call to say they'd got a problem or they'd got somebody who was stealing, and then we would work with them to move in and make an arrest if necessary. And unfortunately, we made a lot of them. So, some were very mundane, some were, let's just say they could have been a little bit nasty. We had a lot of chases through the town, and lots of fights, unfortunately, within the store sometimes. But we had to protect the customers. We had to make sure customers didn't get involved, didn't get hurt. I mean, all the time I was there, I managed to get myself and a shoplifter managed to get thrown through an 8 by 12 plate glass window. Uh, we went straight through it and out the other side, which I don't recommend. But we were a very, very good, very, very close team, and we worked also very closely with the other security people within Croydon itself. So it was a very good relationship, especially with the police. They backed us, we backed them. So it was very good. But then on the late turn, it would be the opposite way around. We'd be closing the store down. You'd be patrolling the store, making sure nobody was left in the store, any customers, and it was a very, very big store. I mean, you had the trading floors, the 4 trading floors and the basement, but you had another floor below that, and you had the social club up on the roof. So that was running up until sort of midnight-ish. So you were keeping your eye on that as well, and locking places down where people shouldn't go. We had fur departments at that time, which we had to close off to make sure nobody went into them, and of course they attracted the animal liberation people and things like that, and we had 1 or 2 incidents with them. We also had the one evening when the actual ceiling fell in. We had a heavy snowfall, and unfortunately it thawed out, and the building itself, and unless you know the building, it's sort of made up of I would say 3 separate buildings all joined together. And of course all the snow melted off the roof, came through various different parts of the building. It all settled on the first floor where the fur department were, and myself and a guy called Andy Fettis, one of my colleagues, lovely guy, we were walking through there putting the alarms on one night, and we sort of stood and we were looking at the ceiling, and we thought, that ceiling's moving, and we thought, no, it can't move. And as we walked towards it, all of a sudden there was a big crash, and all this water came all through the ceiling, down the escalators into the first floor, basement, sub-basement, and it was all hands to the pump to clear the water, clear the area. But we were trading again by the following morning. All the directors came in, but everybody just mucked in and got the store going again, because that's what we were. We were a team. So, and nothing was too much bother.
Can you just explain a little bit the huge building? And I was told there were so many nooks and corners, So and you must have known the whole place,
Yes, you got to know it. So much so you got to know it that well that we would, particularly at night when we were patrolling in the evenings, we turn all the lights off in the buildings, obviously to save power. But we could walk through the store and walk around the floors and know where everything was, and we didn't really sort of put the torches on. We had like fire shutters which compartmentated the building off, and we would drop, if there was 3 in a row, we'd drop 2. If there was 2, we'd drop 1. So we had a route to walk around the building, and yeah, we'd often walk around there without torches on, because we knew where we were going. It used to get a little bit funny on occasions when the display department, particularly at Christmas, they would obviously change departments round and put in like a Christmas grotto and things like that. And the funny times, they would put walls up, so you'd be going around talking to your mate as you were going around, and you suddenly think to yourself, there's a wall that wasn't there last night. And one night I was going around with one guy and we were chatting away, and I said to him, well, where are you? He said, I'm behind the wall. I said, what wall? And there was just a wall there that just wasn't there before. And we just, well, how do you get out? And occasionally, of course, people would stay in the building. We had occasions where there would be intruders in the building that didn't go out, and you'd have to have the police in to try and find them. And the local police, because the building was so big, the police would often bring a dog or 2 dogs in to search. And they got their own back on me one night. We had some alleged intruders in, and we had a walk round and we couldn't find anybody. But the 2 officers that came in with the dogs said, the dogs need to be confident and find somebody. Can you go off and hide? So, like a fool, yes, I'll do it. Off I went and I hid, and they said, right, well, we'll send the dog, and when it finds you, it will sit in front of you and it will bark, and we will come in and the dog will get his confidence. I said, yeah, okay. So I hid. The dog came in, it found me, it stood there barking at me, and I stood there and no one came. They were all outside the office laughing. Cause I couldn't move because I had this great big Alsatian in front of me. But it was fun. It was a great laugh. And then after we were playing with the dog, you know. So, but yes, we did find people in there on occasions.
Right. And just explain a little bit how ALLDERS looked like from the inside. Now we see only the outside. Nobody's allowed to go inside.
Well, it was just this massive department store. You had the arcade, which everybody would know from the outside. They'd come in from the arcade, and as I remember it, you had the china and glass department on the left. You had the perfumery department on the right as you came in the doors either side of the arcade, and you could walk through the arcade, which had lots and lots of little shops and franchise in there. And then you had the big carpet department at the back. Then you moved on up onto the first floor, and you had the fashions departments. You had all duvets and all the bedding departments. And then on the second floor, it was the big furniture department, which took up most of the second floor. You also had a hairdressing department on the back of that, and then you moved up again. You had the toy department, sports departments. So it was basically everything you would ever want was in that store somewhere once you knew your way around it. I think somebody did do it one day. If you walked round from the top to the bottom, walked around all the floors, right down to the basement, it was actually about a 3-mile walk. So yeah, you used to get your steps in, which it wasn't the fad then, but you would get your steps in if you wanted your exercise. But no, it was a massive store with everything you could ever possibly ask for, and all diverse characters in there of all the different departments, and some lovely people, some very, very nice people.
So how was the relationship generally between the people there at that time?
It was very good. It was very, very good. Yes, because you had so many staff in a store that big. I believe there was about 1,500 staff in that store. Yeah, you would get the occasional ones that would end up being in trouble because they would take things that didn't belong to them, but our internal investigations team rooted them out and things like that. And yeah, there was occasions where you had to deal with members of staff, which was a shame, but these things happen in places like that. You do get the odd bad character, but generally it was a very, very friendly store. I mean, Christmas time, you used to have the store annual Christmas party, which was normally held at a nightclub in Streatham, the Cat's Whiskers as it was then, and it was staff only because there was just so many staff, and it was just a fantastic night. It was really, really good, all good fun. So
that means apart from the work, there was a lot of social activities.
Yeah, you had we had the social club up on the top floor, run by a chappie called Terry Viviash, a very larger than life character who ran the social side of the business, and he took the social club in the time I was there from like a small bar to what you could call a major nightclub. You had lots of big acts up there, cabaret acts and things like that. They'd have cabaret nights, and again he ran the sports section up there, and you had all the internal sports teams, which was run through the sports and social club, and you had your social scene there as well. So it was a very, very big family, best way to describe it, run by a lovely guy called Peter Saunders, who was a store director, and I've never ever known a man like him. He he would be introduced on a Monday when you had the new staff come in. He'd come up and say hello to all the new intake of staff, and that man never forgot a person. He always had time to speak to people. If he was walking around the store, he'd come and talk to you if he saw you and ask how you were. He had a general interest in his staff, a really genuine man. And I was very lucky that I had the opportunity to chauffeur him, if you like, when he was going to social events. So I got to know him and his family very well, and his wife Sheila and his daughters, and his stepson Stevie Foster, who was a professional footballer at the time for Brighton. And I got to go to London and take him up to the Hilton Hotel, and also because of who he was, he also had a lot of connections with celebrities, and we had a lot of celebrities come down to open different parts of the store and do the Christmas switch on of the lights, and I was very lucky to be asked to go and pick them up, often from their houses, chauffeur them around, look after them with my colleagues in the store, make sure they were all looked after. And we had some fun and games, particularly with the likes of Ronnie Corbett, which one particular time he was at the Gold Seal Oaks, as they call it, Derby Day at Epsom. It was sponsored by the ALLDERS, and I had to go to his house with Sheila Saunders, pick him up from his house in the morning at New Allington, drive them across to Epsom Racecourse and drop them off, and then take them back at the end of the day. Well, I felt like part of the family with Mr. and Mrs. Saunders, purely because I'd done so much stuff with them. And when I got to Ronnie Corbett's house with Sheila, I sort of opened the car door like a good chauffeur would do, and she said, "Oh no, come with me, come in." I thought, no, I'm all right. I'll stay in the car. No, you're part of us. You come in. And she knocked on the door, and Ronnie Corbett opened the door, and he sort of hello Sheila, and he went, "Wait in the car." Like, "Oh, okay." So I went back and sat in the car. I thought, well, that's not a problem. And I sort of sat there for a few minutes, and then his daughter, Ronnie Corbett's daughter, came out and said, "Oh, Daddy says, would you like to come in for coffee?" I said, "No, thank you. I'll sit in the car. I'm perfectly all right." And about 10 minutes later, they came out, and he insisted on sitting with me in the front of the car all the way to Epsom and talking to me all the way over. I think Sheila Saunders had a word with him about who I actually was. When we got to Epsom, we had special places to park the vehicles, and Sheila turned around and said, "Oh, Ron, go and ask him where you need to park." And Ronnie Corbett thought she was talking to him. So he went to get out of the car, and I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Corbett." I said, "Where are you going?" And he went, "You're Ron as well?" I went, "Yes." And he just thought it was hilarious. And he got back in the car, and I ended up taking him home that day on my own. When he'd finished what he was doing there, he said, "Oh, can you take me home now?" So I said, "Yeah," and we got on like a house on fire after that. He was really sort of nice to me. But those are the sort of things we had. I mean, spent nearly a whole day with Tommy Cooper. I had to go and pick him up from his house. And Peter will, when you interview Peter, he'll recall this. Tommy Cooper had a very large holdall which he bought out the house, and I took a bit look inside it before I put it in the car, and it was full of Barbican beer, alcohol-free beer. So I took it in, and I was supposed to take him home at 2 o'clock to Chiswick, and Peter came down at 2 o'clock, and he said, "I'm sorry, Ron." He said, "He won't go." I said, "What?" He said, "No, he won't go. He won't go until he's finished that holdall with the beer in it." 6 o'clock he came down, and I was meeting my girlfriend who was then, who's now my wife. I was meeting her we were going out for dinner, and he came out at 6 o'clock, and I said to myself, "So, Mr. Cooper," I said, "I'm sorry about this," I said, "but my girlfriend's over there. I'm supposed to be meeting her to take her." I said, "So can she come in the car with us?" So he said, "Yeah, all right." So she came with us reluctantly. She didn't want to come. And halfway back, he suddenly decided he wanted to buy some cigars. So I said, "That's all right. I know there's an off licence. I know I want to go to a pub." I thought, "Oh no." We got to a pub in Mitcham, and he said, "I'll be 20 minutes." I said, "Okay, 20 minutes." Off he went. 3/4 of an hour later, I said, "Obviously, I've had enough." And I walked to the pub door, opened the door, and I was in full uniform. And the guy came in, he said, he said, "Tommy Cooper's over there doing tricks." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm going to show you a new trick now." I said, "I'm his chauffeur." I said, "I'm going to get rid of him." And I literally just walked into the pub, and he looked up, and I went, and back to the car, and took him all the way home to Chiswick. But yeah, and that was a few months before he actually died on stage. But he was a huge, really, really big man. But no, met a lot of celebrities there, and we looked after Gloria Hunniford, people like that, Roy Castle. I mean, got some pictures down there. Some of the ones we looked after. Tony Hart, the artist, got a picture out on the wall that he drew for me. So it was a lovely time. It was a lovely time. Met some lovely people.
So what was when you talked to your friends who are outside Alders? What did you say what did they say when you walked at Alders? Was it a kind of a good place to work, or was it
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you just used to see a lot of people that I know used to come in, and they used to see you walking around in uniform, and they were generally interested. A lot of them in sort of what you were doing, but obviously they didn't realise quite to the extent of the things we actually did do and the people we did meet. So it was they were interested, and a few people that actually came onto the team sort of through the years were people that we'd speak to in the store that showed a particular interest, particularly like Andy Fettis, who I mentioned before. He was originally taken on as a Saturday guy, ended up with us nearly full time, and another couple of guys that came in and sort of joined the team. So yeah, people got to know us, and we were the security team that people wanted to get onto, because they could see we had a very, very good social life as well as a work life. So the work-life balance was very, very good, and we had our fun. So, and we were looked after. As I said to you before about the social club, they used to have a lot of social evenings up there, and you'd be talking about people in dinner suits and having major people up there to do speeches and things like that. And the restaurant staff, the guy called Peter, who was one of the chefs, and Gerda, who was very, very famous. People were scared stiff of Gerda, because Gerda was she was in charge of the staff restaurant, and you can imagine by her name, she was a German lady. Everybody says she was so fierce, but she looked after the security team, and so did Peter. If there was a meal going up there for the people having these conferences and things like that, they always sent down food for the security team that were on duty. So they really, really looked after us. So likewise, we gave them a first-class service as well. So it was good. It was really, really good. But yeah, shop theft was a major part, which was the reason that we were there. Yes, you had your petty shop thief that would come in and little bit, but you had your organised gangs that would come in, and they could do a lot of damage. Hence the reason, with your security team and your store detectives and the town centre security, you built up knowledge of all these various teams, and if they came into town, then chances are the teams would be ready for them and hopefully arrest them. My brother was the security manager at Debenhams, which was opposite us, and we often would be working together. He'd have somebody in our store, and we'd help him and he helped me. I remember chasing a shoplifter one day from the back of the store up what was called Dingwall Avenue to Wellesley Road at the back, and I'm running up the road after this guy and I'm not getting any closer, and all of a sudden my brother came past me like a steam train, and he thought it was hilarious that he caught him and I hadn't caught him, because he'd heard it on the radio I was chasing somebody, so he came out to help. But there were occasions, I know one of our guys one day chased a shoplifter and he got on a bus. So he got on a bus with him, and I think he stopped him at Thornton Heath. So you know, there was no way they were getting away if they came into us and we got onto them. Very few of them actually got away. But yep, shoplifting was a big thing, and there wasn't unlike today. You see in today's news, people being stabbed and things like that. We never even thought of that when we were doing the job. We didn't think of the battle weapons or anything like that. We just did it. I think because we had enough of us were there. If anything went on, there was always plenty of us to sort of deal with the people that were involved. And yes, we did have some quite violent fights in the store with people, but there was enough of us to contain it. And yeah, luckily, not many of us got too badly. I know myself and another one of my colleagues, Alan Mackay, we both broke our wrist on the same day, within about half an hour of each other, which was quite funny because I got a picture down there of Michael Aspel signing the plaster cast. I did mine chasing a guy down the staircases. I went to grab him and I missed him and put my hand through the railing and carried on going, which was not a good idea. I caught him, but then I sat down in the office. I thought, "Oh, my wrist and half hurt," and and then I'm coming back from the hospital, and my mate Alan was on his way down to the hospital. He'd done almost the same thing, chasing somebody up the road. He went and put his hand on the railing to jump over, and he didn't. He put it through it, and he did exactly the same. So there was the pair of us, both with broken wrists, which was a bit of fun.
And then eventually, you always worked in the same position, or did you change your position in the store? Did you work in the same department, or did you?
Yeah, the security teams were very much set. We all stayed within our teams. The 2 day shifts, which alternated between 7 till 3 and 3 to 11, we all remained in that team. And then the night shift were a permanent night crew who did nothing but nights. But each of the teams had their own characters. We had a particular guy. He was an ex-guardsman. He was a lot older than us. I think when I went there, he must have been in his 50s. He's probably not with us now, but we used to call him the Ancient One. A guy called Sid. An absolute gentleman, a real true gentleman, typical tash, grey hair, 6 foot odd tall, very pristine. We protected Sid. If anybody, Sid never got involved with any of the rough and tumbles. We thought, no, Sid, you sort of stay out of it. And if anybody said somebody has threatened Sid or whatever, everybody went to his aid. But Sid had the most dry sense of humour. We had Peter Saunders number 2, a guy called Jeff Eaches. He was the services director, and his bugbear was lights. As soon as the store was shut, he wanted as many of the lights that didn't need to be on turned off to save money. And we had Cliff Richard there one night doing his Christmas shopping. They kept the store open for him so he could do his shopping, and he was there for a couple of hours. And after he went, Mr. Eaches, or Jeff Eaches, came running down the stairs, and he came around the corner to where our office was, and he turned around and went, "The lights are on in China." And Sid, who was standing there, he said, "My God, you must have good eyes." Because the China department was down the stairs below where we were. And he just didn't realise he was having the Mickey taken out of him. But no, and Mr. Eaches would remember he got jumped on one night. We were on a late turn, and we knew he had a key, and he was letting himself in one of the doors. We knew where he was going. He perhaps you shouldn't put this in there, but he was going up to the beauty salon, shall we say. He would let himself in, and the guys got wind that he was coming in the door, and he did. He came in one night, and as I said to you before, we used to patrol that store without our torches on, and two of the lads caught him coming through the door, so they treated him as an intruder, and they jumped on him, and pinned him to the ground. They knew it was him. They pinned him to the floor and sort of bent him up and picked him up, and they went, "Oh, Mr. Eaches, terribly sorry." And he got very annoyed about it. But Peter turned and said, "What are you doing letting yourself in? That's what they're there for." And he never did it again. He came in the conventional way, if he wanted to go out there. But we knew he was doing it, and we thought, no, you're not going to get away with it. But yeah, it was sort of things that we used to do. But to say the teams, we would cover each other. If there was one of the teams was short, then one of us would work, or two of us would work over. And often, particularly on a Saturday when you were very busy, you wanted as many of us in there as possible. The guys would start at 9 o'clock and work right through to 11 o'clock in the evening because they wanted to. That is what it was. It was our store, and we wanted to protect it. And the fact that the directors looked after us, the managers looked after us, then we felt we want to look after them, and that is how it was. I just wish it was still there. I really do.
You were talking about the social events.
Oh yeah.
And that there was also sports events.
Sports events, yes. There was five-a-side football teams. There was the main football team. There were netball teams, darts teams, and also in the latter years when I was with Alders, they used to do the Alders Fun Day, which was like a day of events where all the stores in the group would put teams in to do different things, like they used to do like pram races and things like that, and all sorts of sports, and it was very, very, very competitive. But the social scene went right round the group, but it was driven by Croydon. Croydon drove it. If Croydon could do it, the rest of the group wanted to do it. And so I was lucky enough to be with the group up until about 2003. Even though I wasn't at Croydon for all that time, I was in some other stores. Then we all wanted to beat Croydon. Everybody wanted to beat Croydon, but Croydon were very good. Bromley were very good, and Chatham were very good, but Croydon were exceptional. So, and yeah, the social scene was really good, and just you had the club upstairs, and yeah, security guys used to go out for a drink after their shift in the evening. It was nice. You knew you had a couple of hours up there. If the club night was on, you could go out and have a relax up there. It was really good. So, and so Terry, I think Terry died about 30 years ago now. His daughter and son worked at the store as well, Michelle and Jan. Lovely people, and they were very involved. And Terry had Terry's tarts, as he would call them, his girls that would be like the hostesses up there, and they were all store girls, but they were really nice. It was great fun, absolutely great fun. 1,500 staff in the store, and I believe it was 2/3 women.
2/3 women.
Yeah.
So what was the relationship between the men and women?
Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, let's just say that the Christmas parties were very good. I'm not going to go any further than that, but yes, there were a lot of husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend teams in there. Yes, there were one or two marriages that probably didn't survive the course because of the ratio between men and women, but no, the social events were extremely good. That's as far as I'm prepared to go. No, very, very good. Social events were fantastic. I say, because of the amount of people there, particularly the staff Christmas party, you just couldn't have your family or your wives or your girlfriends that didn't work there, because there weren't enough room. It was staff only. So yeah, it was good. There was a few rumours, but there we go. A lot of rumours.
Describe a bit the Christmas party. I mean, the
Oh,
atmosphere and what happened
brilliant.
there. And
I particularly remember one year we used to go to the Cat's Whiskers at Streatham, quite a big nightclub at the time. I don't think it's there anymore. And the store used to supply the wine for the table. It was really nice. 3 or 4 bottles of wine for the table, and all the security guys. One year we decided we were all going to hire tuxedos. We were all going to go in tuxedos. You can imagine there'd be 18 of us there in tuxedos. We looked the business. But we also thought we'd have a bit of a game whilst we were there. And we were all sat down at the table and we're all sort of looking around and thinking, right, bottles of wine. Now, bearing in mind, we are honest people. Bottles of wine went under the table. Hey, excuse me, we haven't got any wine. So off they would go, and the waitresses, they'd come back and they'd put the wine on the table and we haven't got any wine. And well, we ended up with about 18 bottles of wine because we kept putting them under the table. And again, Peter Saunders, we were right next to the director's table. They knew what we were doing, and they were just killing themselves laughing at what we were doing. And we said, "Want a bottle of wine, sir?" But that was the sort of fun we had with them. It was no airs and graces. The staff do, yeah, you could call them Peter and Jeff or Tom Atchison. You could call them by their first names. That's what it was like. And they always used to get a telegram from Buckingham Palace. It always used to get read out. I wonder if they recycled it every year, but no, it was good. It was good fun. I think of one of the Christmas light switch-ons that we had Kenneth Connor and Jack Douglas were the celebrities to switch on the lights. And Kenneth Connor was a little fella, and Jack Douglas 6'4", 6'5". Well, Kenneth Connor turned up, and Jack Douglas was nowhere to be seen. And we were standing outside in the Whitgift Centre where the plug, pull the lever, we all know it was a guy in the switch room. We said, right, turn them on now, and he put it. And we were standing there talking to Kenneth Connor, and we were looking, and there was this hand at the back of the crowd waving. I said, were you looking for Mr. Douglas? He said, yeah. I said, there he is. He was at the back of the crowd. We don't know how he got there, but anyway, we managed to get him up to where he was supposed to be. And then I was asked to take him and Kenneth Connor to East Croydon Station in the car, drive them up to the car. Wow. The car was in what we called the sub-basement. And you had to go down a set of staircases, and the height of the ceiling was about 5'2", 5'3". So I just naturally said, oh, mind your head as you're going down the stairs. And Kenneth Connor turned around and he said, are you taking the mickey? Because he's only a little fella, isn't he? And then I went, oh, no, sorry, I actually meant Mr. Douglas. And on the way back, the pair of them were sitting in the back of the car with the windows wound down, and they were hanging out of the car, shouting at people. Oh, how I got them to East Croydon Station in one piece, I will never know. But we got them there. But they were so funny. They were really funny people. But I was very privileged to actually do that. And I think one of the best guys I've ever seen there, and I've got a picture out on the wall that I'll show you later. Tony Hart, the kids artist he was Vision On and things like. He did Morph and Chaz. I had to look after him and his wife one day. What a lovely man. And we had a children's themed event going on. And before he went up there was Keith Chegwin. And Keith Chegwin had wound these children up to such a degree that they were really unruly. And myself and my colleague, we thought this is dangerous because they were so unruly and we couldn't calm them down. And Tony Hart came on to do his drawing, and he had a big board up with paper on it, and he was doing sketches for the kids. And he just walked on stage and he just went shh, 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 shh. And these kids were eating out of his hand. They were just as quiet as mice. And what a fantastic thing to watch. And I managed to get one of the pictures, and I took some photographs of him and things like that. And he very kindly sent me a watercolour, which he did for my kids. And he actually sent it through the post for looking after him. And but what a lovely fella. What an absolute diamond. Yeah, some of them which weren't particularly pleasant. We had the girl from Bucks Fizz, who she was allegedly sexually assaulted, just before she came to the store. And my instructions from Peter Saunders was, you stick with her like glue. You don't let anybody near her. Okay, sir. And I went through about an hour and a half of abuse because she was swearing at me, I don't want you here, go away. And her mum was with her, and she said, I'm very sorry. I said, that's all right. I said, say what she likes, I'm not going anywhere. And she did come up to me afterwards and apologised. I think her mum had told her to come and apologise. I said, no, that's all right, no hard feelings. I was doing what my job is, and that was it. But yeah, it used to be great. We used to escort a lot of them around the store when they were doing their shopping. And Bruce Forsyth was, he didn't want any security near him whatsoever. And he was opening a camera shop in the arcade. And nice hot summer's day, if I remember rightly. And we were told to sort of stay in the background because he didn't want us anywhere near him. And one of my mates said, there's a woman coming through the crowd, she's got a fur coat on. Ah, it's a bit warm for a fur coat. Yeah. And she walked up to him, and he presumably was thinking that she was wanting an autograph and a photograph taken, and she took the fur coat off. She didn't have anything on underneath the fur coat. Let's say that he wanted security to look after him after that. So we went, oh dear. But that was funny. And we arrested a shoplifter right in front of Noel Edmonds one day. So we had a bit of a tussle with this guy in front of Noel Edmonds, and he sort of just stood there dumbstruck. He just sort of looked at us. He sort of went, oh, what's going on? Oh, yeah, don't worry about it. So, but we had some fun with them. We really did. Did anybody ever tell you that they thought the shop was haunted? Oh yeah. Well, of course, being security officers, I'm afraid we used to play on that. But there were a couple of incidents. One night in particular, we were sitting in our office on the mezzanine floor, and we heard a bang on the floor above us. And we sort of shot out the office to see what it was, and we heard footsteps coming down the steps, going down the steps past where we were. Nobody there. And we went up to where this bang was, and there was two sets of curtains that had come off a rack, and they were on top of each other on the floor. So we followed the sound of the steps all the way down to the basement, and then we stood there. And there's always a noise in the store. No matter what, there's always some noise of something. But it was very, very quiet that night, and we were standing there, and all of a sudden there was an almighty great bang from the middle of this particular floor. And one of the guys put the lights on, and sitting on the floor in front of where we were standing was two sets of shower curtains, one on top of the other, and footsteps going off in the other direction, and there was nobody there. And we just all looked at each other and went, oh my God. And one of the lads one night, we had a switch room, which was where all the telephone exchange was, and we had one of the old plug-in telephone exchanges. Yeah, we had one of them. That was on the thing, and he was in there, and he came down and he said, which one of you were upstairs in the switch room? Well, none of us. Why? We've all been sitting down here. And he was sat in the switch room, and he said the door opened at the end of the corridor. The footsteps came down the corridor. He opened the door, and he said, and as he opened the door, he had his hand on the handle, and somebody went, and carried on going. And he thought it was one of us. We said, "What, us?" And and we said, "Well, yes, it could well be haunted." But we used to play on it. We used to play on it with the other lads, and I'm afraid we were a bit of a practical jokers. And we ever got a new lad. One of the guys one night went and laid on a bunk bed, and laid on the bottom thing, and they said, "Well, send the guy across there to do the lock on that door." And we went, "Yeah, all right." Pitched up, and we let him walk across. And as he got to the front, the guy put his hand out and grabbed him by the leg. Well, poor sod, he passed out. And we thought, "Oh God, we've killed him." But that's the sort of thing we used to do. We used to play practical jokes just to keep us amused, and we used to do that. And oh dear, one night I remember, as I said to you, we used to have various things held at the social club. They held a female stag night up there one night. That was quite interesting, to say the least. And one of the lads came in the following day, and he was an ex Royal Artillery boxer. A little fella, called Bob. Lovely fella, but he got a temper on him that was about that long. And one of the lads thought it would be funny, and they said to him, "Oh Bob, can you go up on the roof?" He said, "They left the donkey up there last night from the stag do, and you need to bring the donkey down in the lift." We didn't think he'd fall for it. And he went, yeah, all right, I'll go and get it. And we thought, oh no. And there were bales of hay that they'd used in this stag thing out on the roof. Well, the staff restaurant was also part of the social club in the evening, and all the staff were up there, and they told the staff that were in the restaurant having their breakfast that this guy was going to come up allegedly looking for a donkey. Yeah, so they all knew. And poor old Bob, he was up there, and we were all on radios, and we're sitting in the office, and he's up there, and he said, "Yeah, well, where is this?" He said, "We go out on the roof, you'll see the hay bales, and it's near the hay bales." Yeah, okay. And he went out there, and he said, "I can't see this donkey, where is it?" And you can hear the people in the restaurant laughing. And all of a sudden, he twigged it was a wind-up, and he said, "That's it." He said, "I'm going to kill the lot of you." Well, you've never seen the security office just emptied, and we were gone. we were gone, because we're not going to be in it. It took him a few hours to calm down, but the sort of things that we do. But we were like that. That's how we were with each other. We knew each other inside out, and we knew the best way of winding each other up. And well, that's what we did. But I spent 6 years at that store, and then I moved on to management in some of the other stores, but kept in contact. I'm still in contact with a few of the guys, but we had some great fun, really was.
But why did you leave?
Well, redundant. The store eventually, I don't know the full ins and outs of it, but it got sold off. And the best part was, all the guys that were on Peter Saunders' team, when he left, we knew what date he was leaving, because we got hold of his secretary, and Jill said, "Oh, he's leaving on so and so a day." I went, okay. And all of us, without even thinking about it, we all went to the store on the particular day he was leaving and said, we're just coming back to say goodbye to Peter. And he was walking around with the new directors, showing them the store, and he saw all the guys there. And I'll never forget it. He turned around to these new directors, he went, "I'll be back in a minute, I'm going to go and see my boys." And he came over and speak to all of us that were there, rather than walk around with these new big knobs, as they were called. But that was the sort of place it was. But I went from Croydon to Eltham as a security manager, because unfortunately the lad that was a security manager died in a car crash. They wanted somebody to stand in, so I went over there for allegedly 2 weeks. 2 years later, I was still there, and then they opened a distribution warehouse. So I went there. That was a bit of a failure on their part. They never did well. They were badly funded. They were underfunded, and got made redundant from that. left there, went off and worked in a paper mill for a few years, and then I heard that they'd taken over a number of stores. Can't remember the name of the group they took over, but there was stores in Ilford in London was one of them, and I knew the guy that was taken on as a store director, and I said, do you need a security manager? And he said, yes we do. I said, well, I'm available, and I went over there and worked with him for several years, and then Chatham became available. There was a vacancy at Chatham, which my brother, funny enough, was running, and he moved off to, where did he go? He went to Bromley, and I applied for Chatham because I literally lived 5 minutes up the road from it, and I joined Chatham, and then sadly Chatham gradually shut down, so I left the group eventually in April 2003. So apart from a gap of about 5 years, I was with them from 1980 to 2003. But again, some of the happiest working days of my life.
In 2003, why did you leave?
The store got rid of all their middle management, and then the store itself eventually closed down, and so I had no choice but leave. So I left, and I joined the police. so I went into the police for a few years, and semi-retired about 3 years ago from the police. And I'm now back in retail, just doing part-time work in a retail shop, which I don't particularly like, but it's a bit of money. So, but I think if Alders of Croydon had still been there to this day, or the group had still been there, I'll probably still be with them, because that's the sort of group they are to work, or were to work for. They were just so people orientated, is what I would call them. So
what would you project for the future when you think about the working conditions there? What would you wish?
What if it was to come back?
The examples, you described in the atmosphere between the colleagues, the management, and all this. What, when you think today,
it's not like that today. I mean, the company I work for today are a big retailer, and it's not the same. I think the people that are in it now, retailer, are mainly in it for themselves. They're not interested in the social side of it, and the social side of it is not as big in some of these companies now. And you basically now you go to work, you earn your money to come home again. The loyalty's not there, but with the Alders people, everybody was loyal to them because they were looked after. Your store directors were interested in you as a person. You weren't just a number on a payroll slip. They would be prepared to stop and talk to you. Peter, Miss Jeff Eaches, Tom Atchison, they would stop and talk to you. And all the department managers. A lot of them, you'd seen them come up from trainees to senior management position. Didn't change them. It didn't change them. And as they moved around the group, you just sort of bumped into people you'd worked for before, who may have been a supervisor in that store, they're a department manager in that store, or a store director in this store, but they were still that person. It didn't change them. They had no airs and graces, if you like, down to earth people, and that's missing, I think, now. I think department stores in general have had their day, what with online and everything like that. The department store is finished. You sort of go up to London, it's not the same. I know some of my colleagues went off and worked in Harrods, and they said it's not the same. It's not the same sort of atmosphere. It's not Alders. If Harrods had Alders sign above it, it would be a fantastic place. So, and the fact that you used to get a lot of celebrities lived around the Croydon and Purley area, and you'd bump into them in the store, but you gave them their privacy. You were aware they were there, and if you knew they were in there, you'd hang around in the areas that they were, just in case there was any problems or people were giving them attention they didn't want, and they appreciated that. Oh, you used to bump into Francis Rossi from Status Quo a lot. He used to be in there a lot with his family. But, you know, you used to say hello to him and carry on walking, and he's fine. So that was how it was.
How was Croydon at the time?
Bustling. I don't think it is anymore. I've not been up there for many years, but from what I've heard, the Whitgift Centre is a shell. It's not what it used to be. It was a bustling centre. It was like a mini West End, if you like. You had all the big stores. You had your Littlewoods, your Marks and Spencers, your Debenhams. I mean, I can remember Debenhams when it was Kennard's, and it had the donkey rides up and down their arcade. And of course, ALLDERS was the flagship that was in the town. But that's all gone now. I mean, there used to be a big pub. It was like a big meeting place in the middle of the Whitgift Centre, the Forum pub. And everybody went to the Forum pub. But not anymore. I think that's gone as well. And most of it's out of town shopping centres, which is a shame. I think the ALLDERS type of business has had its day, which is a great shame. A great shame.
And of course, you know the ALLDERS building is still there.
Yes, they've put some big hoardings up on the outside. I don't know what they're doing on the inside of it. I'd like to see maybe some small businesses or something go in there, or I know local shopping centre to here, Westwood Cross, the old Debenhams, have just been is being converted into like a bowling alley and restaurant complex. That would be a nice sort of thing. Or you could have I don't know, laser tag and things like that, because it is such an iconic and huge building. You could do so much with it, but I don't think there are any businesses out there that would be in a position to take it over as it is. It is just too big. I'd love to see the front stay as the front is, and with the sign up, so that you'd remember what it was, because it's just iconic. It's like an iconic, and I remember during the times of the Brixton riots, when they had all the trouble, and we were up on the roof watching the trouble that was going on. We could see it from up on the roof. We had police officers up on the roof watching as well, and they knew that was going to happen, I think, weeks before it did, because our security controller, Paul Butterworth, he arranged for us all to be sent off for self-defence training about 6 weeks before that all kicked off. And we had self-defence training, and we were all trained on what to do should the windows get put in and things like that. So we were well prepared for it. I must say, we earned a lot of money that time because we were all on 12-hour shifts.
But it didn't spill over from Brixton to Croydon?
Only minor. Very minor skirmishes, yeah, just minor skirmishes in the high street, but nothing compared with what happened in Brixton. It got as far as, I think, Thornton Heath before it sort of fizzled out. No, we didn't have that trouble. I think the biggest trouble we ever had there was the Animal Liberation Front and people like that. They were the anti-fur and the anti-leather people. They would mount protests in the store, and I think the funniest one was on a Saturday. We had the protesters came into the fur department, and we had a coloured gentleman, Mike, lovely fella, who used to work for us, and he went up there to sort out these protesters with a couple of the other lads. And I remember it to the day. He said to this guy, he said, "Nice shoes." And he went, "Yeah." He said, "Leather." He went, "Yeah." He says, "What are you protesting for then?" And as he escorted him out the door. But yeah, we had the windows were sprayed one year. They put some etching fluid on the windows, and people were complaining they were getting burnt and tingling on it. And we went out and looked at the windows, and we could see the windows had been sprayed with this etching fluid. So we had to cordon off the whole of the front of the store while it was all cleaned off. I think the fire brigade came in and cleaned it off, because this stuff was burning the windows, and that was all done by the likes of the Animal Liberation Front. I did have one quite funny incident. We used to have a thing called the Joshua Orders tea shop, which was like a very posh tea shop on the first floor. And I got called one morning with a colleague of mine. They said, there's a lady in the toilets making tea on a primus stove. What? Okay. So I went up there, and sure enough, there was this vagrant lady, and she was making tea. She was doing a washing, and she was making tea. I said, "I'm saying you can't do that here. I'm going to have to get you to leave." And we were escorting her out the building, myself and my mate, and she suddenly decided she was going to attack me. And she did. I had, luckily, full uniform on, and she bit me on the arm, and she went right through my jacket, through my shirt, into my arm. Oh, pain. I've never felt pain like it. So we arrested her for assault and took her back to the office, and literally there was blood coming out the bottom of my shirt sleeves. And we had a full nursing team at the store, and they came down and looked at me, and police came in, and the police said, "Right, you're going to the hospital." They straight to the hospital for all the various jabs. This lady had gold capped teeth, and that's why it went straight through. And then a few months later, she did her own defence at court, and you've never seen anything like it. It was just the funniest thing you've ever seen, because she was completely. And the judge stopped the trial in the end. He said she's ridiculous, and he just sentenced her to a couple of months. I think I got something like £50 compensation. But yeah, I had a scar on the top of my arm where she bit into my arm. But those are the sort of things that sort of happen. But he didn't think anything of it. He just went back to work. The maintenance team used to do their own home brew in the basement. And the place to be at Christmas time, all departments had their own little parties on, and we all went round. It was a lovely atmosphere, but the maintenance team was the one to go to, because they had their homebrewed beer down there. Oh dear, it was lethal, absolutely lethal. But it was a really good time. And Jimmy Croft, who was the boilerman, he sadly passed away a couple of weeks ago. I think he was 85 years old. But it was the place to go, and everybody knew it. Even the store directors went down there. So when you ask Peter, I know he went down there, so if he ever denies it. But no, it was just a wonderful, wonderful place to work. Everybody was friendly. The Facebook site, you still get memories come up on the Facebook site, and people come up on that, and you sort of, I remember you, and it was just a lovely time. A lovely, lovely time. It's nice to know it's going to be preserved in this project for people to look back on, because there will never be anywhere like it again. It's never. Right, what we got here is
Top left.
the top left. Now that's my mum. That's my lovely mum there. She was a great fan of Des O'Connor. She loved Des O'Connor. And when I said Des O'Connor was coming to the store one evening to do a autograph session, she insisted on coming. And she asked Des, could she have a photograph of her and me in it? So that's me reluctantly being photographed with Des O'Connor. With my lovely mum. God rest her. Next to that, you've got a very young, to the right, that's the lovely Gloria Hunniford. I had the pleasure of going to pick her up from her house at Sevenoaks and bring her to the store, and that was totally out of the blue. I didn't realise she was going to do that, and at the end of the day, her daughter Karen Keating had come to pick her up, and she saw me at the door, and she came over and she said, I must have a photograph done with Ron, who looked after me today. So that was purely spontaneous. Yeah, on the bottom right, we got the bottom right and bottom left, you've got various members of the team. On the right, that's the day Tommy Cooper came to the store to do the Christmas lights. That was the day we couldn't get rid of him. And then you got Trevor Bobdale. That he's the artillery, ex-Royal Artillery boxer. And you got Tommy, myself, Andy Perry, another Andy, I can't remember his other name. On the left of that, you've got a few more of the lads with Ernie Wise. Right, and on that one, the top left, if I remember, I told you that two of us managed to break our arm on the same day. There's Michael Aspel signing 2 plaster casts. My one and my mate Alan, who I'm still in contact with. He's signing the plaster casts on that day. And then on top right, Roy Castle, with a few more members of the lads. Ronnie Reid in the middle, he's the guy who's got his hand out.
Bottom right?
Bottom right, no, top right.
Top right, okay.
Top right, that's with Roy Castle. Yeah. Ron Reid, he used to wear lots of gold. We always remember Ron, he used to wear a lot of gold. Lovely fella, and again Bob Dale there, and a chap called Alan with the sideburns behind him. One of our store detectives there, Linda, she's behind. And then bottom right, Frank Carson, the comedian. And what a hilarious time we had with him. He was just so funny, and he was very, very happy to have a photograph taken with the boys. And then bottom left, you've got Sue Pollard, who's a complete and utter mad, as mad as a fish. But we had fun. We had fun and games with her. She would insist on hitting people with her handbag and things like that. So most of us got hit at least once. That chap in there, Simon, another one of our colleagues. Really good time those. That is the Christmas parade. That's walking from a park at Addiscombe, where we had to walk through to the store at Croydon, walk down the back of Wellesley Road, escorting Father Christmas on a horse-drawn cart, and I was given the job of walking in front of it all the way down with the police, mainly telling the store where we were and how far we were and etc. before we got to the store. Luckily it was dry that day. I would have got very wet, but no, that was good fun. I mean, it was probably about a good 1.5 mile walk, I would have think, the time we'd done it. Right, Tony Hart, the children's artist as he was then, part of a big program that was called Vision On, and he was the creator of Chaz and Morph, the little plasticine puppets. He came in to do a teaching for the kids one particular summer holidays, and he literally had these kids sitting on the floor and he was getting them to call out different types of animal, and then he would sit there and do sketches of them, literally just off the cuff completely. And yeah, very nice chappy.